What is going on, guys? It's Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and today's show is going to be packed. We have about 30 stories, and we're going to get through them as quickly as possible. This is a live show, so anything can happen. Stick around. We'll be right back right after this. Remember, nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of myself, Dex, or anyone else on the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. What is going on, guys? It's Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we have a ton to go through, so if you are new here, you can follow along on our website, marfooglenews.com. When you go there, you will actually see it's all very easy to navigate. It is navigated via the thumbnails here. Look for the day that the internet stops, and then you will see it is at the very top of the page. Once you click on that, you will see that we have put together all of our sources. So again, we have a bibliography of every piece of article, tweet, video, document that we're going to show you here today is on our website and backed up. It's also archived and searchable. Up in the corner, there is a search bar where you can actually search previous shows, say a keyword, the internet stops, and it will show you today's show or any previous show that we talked about the internet. If you want to go further down, there's a web-only content section where we have basically a whole nother show of the stuff that's too hot for TV. A lot of really, really crazy stuff down there. If you are watching this show every day and you are not going down there, then you are missing everything. Absolutely great stuff down there. And then if you do want to support us, we are absolutely independent. We do not have a multi-channel network. We don't even have a multi-billion-dollar company behind us. So again, go down to the bottom and check out the web-only content. And if you want to support, go over to the right side of the page. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex. What is going on today, and how are you doing?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So, obviously, there is a curfew going on in New Orleans. This is pretty crazy because this is very reminiscent of a previous hurricane that went through. It is not exactly martial law, but it is pretty insane. It says that New Orleans imposes a curfew to prevent crime in the wake of Ida. Of course, this curfew is going into place. Of course, it did yesterday, I believe. It says New Orleans on Tuesday imposed a citywide curfew to prevent crime in the wake of Hurricane Ida. Mayor LaToya Cantrell signed the executive order mandating a curfew from all residents from 8 p.m. to 6 p.m. Again, it says emergency and relief workers in New Orleans and the parish of Orleans are exempt from the curfew. Now, I'm guessing this document here was mistaken, and it means to 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., because that would be kind of weird if it went back in time. But, you know, with CERN, you never know. I mean, it very well could be going back in time. Emergency and relief workers in New Orleans and the parish of course, the parish of Orleans are exempt from the curfew. So, again, the emergency workers and kind of the essential people, they can actually go. If they are there to do any kind of work, or if they're contractors cleaning up stuff, then they can move around freely after 8 p.m. Kind of strange they picked 8 p.m., don't you think, Dex, instead of like 10? I don't think we've seen an 8 p.m.
Well, no, I think it's 8 because of the fact that they don't have power, and as the sun goes down, there's no lighting at all. They want to make sure that everybody's off. Plus, they're Central Time, so the sun setting's a little different based on, at least where I am on the East Coast. So, okay,
well, that makes a little bit more sense. So basically, once the sun goes down, it is actual pitch black. You know what would be really crazy is if you were in, say, someplace like New Orleans, there is no electricity, no lights anywhere, and you would actually be able to see the stars. I know that is, everything is going wrong there. It is really negative, but I'm sure there are some people there that are just getting an absolutely crazy view of the sky. When there is no city light, and I mean no city light, that is where you really see it. I'm sure there are people that are seeing the stars possibly for the first time, other than the Big Dipper and the brightest North Star. I think that would be a trip. I have always, it's kind of like a car crash that you don't want to look, but you also don't want to look away. I've always wanted to visit someplace that has had something like this happen. I would love to help and volunteer if I could. I just wish if this was me in my 20s, I would have already been there. I did think about it this time around. After seeing the pictures of everybody boating and trucking down there, it just feels like crap not doing anything. If any of you want to volunteer, though, after the show, we're going to add a website. If you do want to volunteer and help New Orleans, and you do have the time and you can go, then please do. There are a lot of people that are hurting and in pain right there, and of course a lot of families that are displaced. Chololo Yo 177, thank you for subscribing. Dogecoin Economy says, here we go, hit that like button. And then Dogecoin Economy again, before the show even started, says, this is your pre-show reminder to like this video. Well, thank you. Hey, I appreciate that, Dogecoin, and I appreciate you coming over from Crypto Batman and sticking around. Bound by Mountains, Rocknick Forever says, I have to get up early, so I'll catch it in the morning. Thanks, Marf, Dex, Moz, and the Foogle fam. Much love and stay safe. Equals dream as if you will, live forever, live as if you will die today. Well, there are some of us that probably will, which is a very sad thought, but it's the truth. Winston Dupree, thank you so much. You will eat bugs and own nothing, and you will like it. That was the last comment of the show yesterday, 2 days ago, talking about what the World Economic Forum actually has to say. They say we will own nothing and we'll be happy. Kind of a strange statement there. Ida's impact NYC subways lure getting back on track. Major outages remain on the Metro North New Jersey Transit. So if you have not seen some of the images that have come out of New York, it is absolutely insane. Waterfalls basically coming down into the subways. You have, of course, buses driving through the street half full of water. We've got some stuff here in just a second. Actually, I believe, we do have some videos here in a minute, but man, it is absolutely nuts. We're talking about flash flooding that happened so fast. Most people were caught, out in the middle of the street. That's how fast this was. It says massive flooding brought on by Ida's intense deluge swamped the mass transit systems in New York and New Jersey. The MTA is slowly getting the New York City subway system rolling again Thursday morning after numerous outages, while almost all New Jersey transit rail service remains suspended. So I believe this might be the first time that has happened because of this, because I know that I don't know if the New Jersey Transit has had stops like this. I know New York recently had one, and it was like a record because it had never happened before, and that was because of CV. So I don't know what is actually going on here. If you are there and you have more info, or if you have personal experience and personal video from these events, please make sure to send it to us, adam@marfooglenews.com or dex@marfooglenews.com. You can also go to our website, marfooglenews.com, and then go up and say, play my video. You can actually submit video there of any kind of event. It says the only New Jersey Transit rail service that was rolling Thursday morning was the Atlantic City Rail Line. There was good news, however, for Long Island Railroad riders. Service had been restored on all lines, with delays with the exception of the Port Washington branch. Customers can expect scattered system-wide delays averaging 15 minutes and cancellations as we continue our recovery efforts following unprecedented rainfall in our region. Again, crazy, crazy rain. If you haven't seen the videos, just stay tuned. It's nuts.
Doesn't it seem a little odd that you have more deaths in New York from a hurricane that struck Louisiana? And doesn't it also seem strange that there's all that rain? Like, where did the rain come from? I mean, I know it came from the hurricane. I'm not crazy, but, it just seems like it, we've seen hurricanes go across land before, and it's not always this bad. It's, it usually starts to dissipate, and it doesn't pick up all that moisture from the dirt, right? So
again, so what Dex is saying, isn't it strange that the actual hurricane hit Louisiana and New Orleans, and I believe only 2 or 3 perished, maybe more, right? Is it up to 4 now? Basically, as of yesterday or as of 2 days ago, 3 had perished. 1 from a tree falling. 1 was a really strange one. Do you remember what the strange one was, Dex? It was like
No, I do not. But I do know that, like, as of now, it's a 7 in the New York flooding. So,
Well,
I mean, that's
it actually updated to 8. It says
8. Okay.
stunning images emerge of catastrophic and deadly flooding in New York City, and it says that 8 individuals have perished, including one 2-year-old, as the metropolitan area of New York City was ravaged by record rainfall, tornadoes, and flash flooding that flooded roads and subways that paralyzed the densely populated urban area. Now, do you agree? Do you think that it is strange that more people perished in this flash flood, basically the tail end of the hurricane and kind of the weather and the rain from this, compared to what the actual Category 4 hurricane hitting the coast? How did this happen? Is it because of the infrastructure of New York? Is it because of the area, because of how unprepared they are? I don't understand how so many people perished in this, and how deep was the water in some places. I would get it if say there was like 7 of these were in the subway and the subway flooded to ground level or something and they drowned. But again, I guess I'm going to look deeper into how all of these people perished. That's pretty nuts. Do you guys agree? I'm going to head over to the chat right now. Looks like we have Fred Dio. Infrastructure, what's going on? Says, Fred Dio says they won't let you donate plasma if you've had the JAB in Las Vegas. Anyways, weird. I could see that, and I would see how that would be possibly an insurance thing. Barefoot Lass, good to see, as well as Hit the Sack. Love your way. Kenny Crowder, thanks for being around here. I believe you are one of my first Foogle Fam subscribers, so thank you. Latonia Heaton, we've got Jen Boyles, an anonymous donor. Let's see here, anonymous. I like the spelling on that. Hopkinson, Jacktronics, Priscilla R. over on DLive, AZ Artist. We've got Royal Riviera, The Naughty Gypsy, Maui Racing Realtor, Spree, and Yeah Buddy. Special shout out to Yeah Buddy. Yeah Buddy was the first one who noticed, of course, that bill that has been introduced about everything that is going on with these balloons and the kind of their introduced emergency bill to basically put up balloons in the stratosphere to have emergency internet in case everything goes down. I'll talk about that here just in a little bit, but again, Yeah Buddy, thank you for getting that. I don't know if you noticed, but we actually played it, and then after our video came out, I believe maybe somebody sent it over to Lisa. Lisa discovered it too. Both myself and Lisa were both late on that. I'm surprised because that was actually from the 28th, and nobody had noticed. Yeah, buddy, great job. Like, that's the kind of stuff that we really give the credit to for the Foogle fam for looking out everywhere. That is something that, wasn't really talked about. Nobody was putting that on the front page. That is flipping weird. No, I don't care what you say or about this or that or Bill. I'll talk about that here in a bit. I believe it will pass because I know that there are big powers behind it too. We've talked about that, years ago. The Oogle up above us, they were trying to do it 6 years ago. That's when they started pushing for it. They called it loons. Yeah. They called something loons, and it's not us. So that's a good thing. At least 7 people taken out overnight in New York City, a historic flooding. I believe it's updated to 8 now. It says, including a 2-year-old, a historic rainstorm brought by Hurricane Ida crippled the region, knocking out power and flooding the streets, homes, and subways, prompting the first ever flash flood warning for the Big Apple. This is, again, the first time ever that they have had this kind of flooding. Really quite wild. It says, we're enduring a historic weather event tonight with record-breaking rain across the city, brutal flooding, and dangerous conditions on a road. One thing I will say is for the people that believe that the planet is going hotter or going colder or whatever you want to say, I do see a ton more of these extreme weather events. And if what is true, what they say in the mainstream media, which again, a lot of the times they're basically telling you their plans, we're going to see a whole lot more. And I mean a whole lot more, because they are saying that extreme weather events will not only just keep going up exponentially, but I mean, this is like the movie Geostorm with, who was that? Gerard Butler or somebody like that? that movie was it's totally sci-fi with it was almost the equivalent of a weather version of Sharknado, where the lightning was creating lightning out of lightning on top of lightning, and then tornadoes at the bottom with arms that were hurricanes. It was like totally absurd, but that's what's going to happen. And you guys all know it. You see what's happening, whether it's man-made or whether it's natural, which a lot of people have their theories on that. Of course, with the technology that has been invented, if you do your research, you'll see that we have agreements. We have actual settlements with other countries saying that we won't control earthquakes, we won't control hurricanes, storms, tornadoes, and all of these kind of things because we can't control how to stop them. They made an agreement. They said, hey, since we can control this, let's not use it because they're basically weapons of mass destruction that we cannot stop. We can start something, we just can't stop it. So pretty crazy stuff. And then, of course, a bad solar storm that could cause an internet apocalypse. This is just absolutely nuts. We're going to go back to this in just a second. But first, I wanted to go into the International Space Station facing irreparable failures, Russia warns. We were talking about this earlier. They had a crack that was getting bigger, and this is after, of course, a hole. It was after they almost got knocked out of orbit because of a Russian, I guess the jet boosters were going when something, docked. This is all supposedly, right? And it says the International Space Station, or the ISS, could suffer irreparable failures due to updated or outdated equipment and hardware, a Russian official has warned. At least 80% of in-flight systems on the Russian segment of the ISS had passed their expiration date, Vladimir Solov told state media. He said that also small cracks had been discovered that could worsen over time. Russia has often raised concern over hardware and suggested that it could leave the ISS after 2025. Again, this 2024-2025 year that they are like all saying that they'll leave or do this or that. It's just weird that it's just always that year. It's actually mostly 2025 that is quoted in all of these things. And what those years are based off of most of the time, I don't know about this case, but years where the contract ends or something happens where after that they say they are going to change things. I'm talking about space missions, deadlines, all sorts of goals. We've gone over it. Every time I see the numbers 2025, I point it out because it's just so often. It's kind of like seeing the clock and it says 11:11. I see 2025 in so many articles. It's insane. The station was built in 1998 as part of a joint project between Russia, America, Canada, Japan, and several European countries, and it was originally designed for a 15-year lifespan. So 1998 to 2018 would be 20 years. So now it has been 23 years, 8 years overdue. Mr. Solyov, the chief engineer at the space company Energia, which is leading developer of Russian section of the ISS, said, quote, literally a day after the in-flight systems are fully exhausted, irreparable failures may begin. So, Dex, we may not track the ISS anymore. We may not get that little ding with it going over on our apps anymore.
Well, I was saying that, they've been having this sort of consternation between Roscos and the U.S. as to whether or not they're going to be part of the program. And we know China is building their own space station. They've already got it up there, and they're adding to it, right? So it's kind of interesting that it was one thing when they were finger pointing, but now what they're doing is finger pointing and saying it's not going to be repairable. In other words, your ISS is no good. And probably they're at the point now where they're about to pack up their bags and go climb onto the China ship, right? Leaving us with nothing.
Which, again, the China space station, isn't it up? They have a smaller space station that is already up. So
they have the first one or two modules up, and it's manned.
So what is happening right now is China's got the first couple modules up, and then they fly up other pieces, and they construct it just as they did with the original ISS. So now we have Russia jumping over to China. U.S., do you think that U.S. is going to hop over and say, hey, can we get a spot here for our scientists? No. It looks like, there might be a point where the space station goes down, or purposely they take it out, they destroy it, whatever, where China actually has a space station and we don't. What do you think about that? Let me know in the comments down below. There are several things going on here. Let's cover this. Yeah, in fact, so before we cover that, the main story here, one of the main, in fact, we have a really big story that I'm going to surprise you with tonight. One atmospheric nuclear explosion could take out the power grid. In July, Chinese researchers urged government to increase... Let me try to shrink this down here. Looks like it's there we go. In July, Chinese researchers urged the government to increase the country's readiness for defending against a high-altitude electromagnetic pulse EMP attack. Just over a year ago, a group of American researchers released a report warning that China possessed the capability to conduct an EMP attack against, of course, the big old US of A. It says military and non-proliferation experts are worried about the growing temptation by nuclear-armed countries to engage in a first-strike EMP attack using nuclear weapons, while avoiding direct casualties could prove devastating to electric grids and electronic devices from smartwatches to supercomputers. It says the enormous potential of an electromagnetic pulse released by a high-altitude detonation of a nuclear weapon has been recognized for some time. In 1962, the U.S. conducted an atmospheric test of a 1.45 megaton thermonuclear weapon, codenamed Starfish Prime, which, by the way, what is it? What is the thing called now? Operation. What is the new operation called? Operation Starfall. And I just think it's kind of weird that they use that again. They use kind of similar code names for related things. So I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. It says codenamed Starfish Prime. Again, that was a thermonuclear weapon. 255 miles above Johnston Island in the Pacific Ocean. Over 1,000 miles away, the blast knocked out electricity supply in parts of Hawaii and disrupted telephone service for a period of time. In addition, radiation from the test damaged several satellites in low Earth orbit, taking them out of service. Decades later, the commission is to assess the threat to the United States, of course, from these electronic magnetic pulse attacks, determined as early as 2008 that the U.S. would face catastrophic consequences from an EMP attack given its growing dependence on electronics and all forms of complete reliance upon the electrical grid. It says, and yet, until now, government and industry risk assessments about EMP attacks and their effect on the power grid have been based on oversimplified models of the solid Earth that assume zero variation in depth or composition. It says, but as it turns out, the actual effects of the power grid on an electromagnetic pulse in outer space are strongly determined by three-dimensional distribution of rocks beneath our feet. So there's actually, Dex, do you want to talk about, I know you know a lot more about this, about E1, E2, and E3.
Well, yeah. So basically, they're discovering and thinking more about what the effects are of the E1, E2, and E3 as it relates to the ground and what's below, and even things like, and we'll talk about, I think, in another article about how this same type of event could affect, cables underwater, for example. So, but yeah, the E1 is the very first phase. It's super, super quick and high voltage. E2 is comes right after it, and it's a little bit slower. And sort of like the medium, and then you've got the E3, which is like this really long phase of the EMP, where you just get this continuous pulsing through the wires. And when I say that, really what's happening is called induction. And the wires, all of the copper wire, mostly in our power grid, mostly in the walls of your home, like in your car where you have lots of wire running everywhere, they act like a giant antenna, and they're inducting through ionization, these ions that are floating, they're inducting that energy, basically sucking that energy into the wires, causing all of those wires, wherever they are, in your house, in the power grid, in your car, in your backyard, if you happen to roll a whole bunch of copper wire around in a big circle or anywhere, it just basically treats it like a giant antenna, and it just creates a lot of energy in that line, which is what then in turn fries everything. Anything plugged into it pretty much gets fried.
Now, as far as what is going on, we know that the government is heavily preparing for this, and they are focused on this. I don't know why it is not more public that, of course, this stuff is going on. They are backing up their stuff. That is why, probably about 2 years ago, when we found out a lot of this stuff, that we started, ended up grabbing an affiliate with EMP Shield. We'll talk about them later, but that's a real thing. We think when we pick something, we actually pick it because we think it will save lives or possibly help people. So this came out today. It says a bad solar storm could cause an internet apocalypse. Now, the thing here is that we are having increased amounts of this going on, and it just keeps happening. We have a lot of Foogle fam that actually study this. We have, of course, friends that are creators that focus their entire channels around this. I hope that people at home actually pay attention, and anybody that does say that they like my channel, just understand we're real about this. As far as like Dex and I, both in our own families, we are preparing for this. So this is something that it's kind of like what do you call it? Walk the talk, or what is it? Teach what you preach, or preach what you teach, or whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about. Sorry. I had a bad day yesterday, and I'll tell you about it later, but not good. Involving animals. If you've ever had a house pet, then you'll know. But anyways, this is why we think it's really important, because we know that they are heavily investing in this, and it's only for them. It's only to protect them, and I mean by them, the government, the military, everything else. They're not paying. They're not putting tax dollars in protecting schools. They're not putting tax dollars in protecting, senior citizen homes or anything like this. They're not even, I believe most hospitals aren't getting this kind of protection. So just realize that. It says a bad solar storm could cause an internet apocalypse. People don't realize how much we are dependent on this. It says scientists have known for decades that an extreme solar storm, or CME, or coronal mass ejection, could damage electrical grids and potentially cause prolonged blackouts. The repercussions would be felt everywhere, from a global supply chain and transportation to internet and GPS access. Less examined until now, though, is the impact such a solar emission could have on the internet infrastructure specifically. New research shows that the failures could be catastrophic, particularly for the undersea cables that underpin the global internet. Now, just to take that last part and to really pull that out, we're talking about if it does do permanent damage, or if it does catastrophic damage to that, one, that is also how we are connected with our allies with these undersea lines. We've covered stories in the past how they were worried that Russia might snip the cables with underwater drones. If something like this did happen on top of the blackout, on top of everything else, we would not have communication with our allies. Hence, when you look at something like this introduced bill, somebody read the first sentence of it, or what Maria Salazar said, and said, in fact, Dex, can you get me the quote on that piece? The quote that includes Cuba and everything else, basically talking about the tyrants and how we need to have communications if they turn off the lights, or if they try to turn off the lights. Once you actually go more into the bill, and once you understand what they're actually doing, the 14 co-signers, we're looking into it right now, if some of those are actually on that EMP task force with Peter Pry, who's the director and chair. We're looking at this, and we're seeing that they're doing everything absolutely possible to basically prepare for either an invasion or some sort of a huge event. And if someone wants to argue with me, I would say, please come up with some research and send it to me, and I would be glad to read it. But as far as what we have seen, what they're doing, they're drilling warthogs, A-10 warthogs taking off from the highway. They're drilling with no GPS. They're drilling in the dark. They're burrowing holes. Not only the boring company is burrowing it for, the Hyperloop, but I believe they are government contracted for burrowing bunkers. We are putting, multiple countries are actually putting DNA samples and all these different things, kind of a Noah's Ark in the mountains. They're saving seeds. They're saving animal DNA. They're saving everything. They're sending stuff off to the moon. What the hell is possibly going to happen where the entire world is planning on either getting off the Earth or going underground? That might sound silly now, but just I want to put all of this together. That would be amazing. Go ahead.
As it relates to the internet, and as it relates to the copper wire that's literally running under the oceans, going in both directions, all around the Earth, that's connecting the internet together. That is the problem. It's that the copper wire. So, for example, some people may have fiber in their home, right? And that fiber line that's running is it's low susceptibility. It's not going to pick up anything from the ionization. It's not going to induct electricity during an EMP or a CME, right? So the fiber's fine. It's the copper. So all the new stuff we're doing, whether it's wireless or fiber lines, fiber optics, that stuff's fine. Now the equipment in between two fiber lines, there's equipment. That stuff has to be protected. And it can be, things, like there's shielding devices, there's plug-in devices, there's things that you can do, especially in the business world, as we know on the consumer side, we can do with our homes with EMP Shield as an example. But that kind of stuff can be fixed. But the literal line running across the ocean, you can't fix that. It's going to, it's going to induct a heavy amount of energy from that CME. That great CME hits it. Everything in its path through there is going to get charged really, really heavily. And
it will be fried. So, some think that the internet would just cave, or the power, and think that this is some sort of, short-term thing. This would be a long-term thing. Original estimates said that it could take anywhere from 9 months to 2 years to get power and everything up and running if something like this happens. Some even say that it would be worse because our basic infrastructure would be broken down. The 9 months to 2 year, some experts are saying that is assuming that we still have any sort of basic communication. Now that's where I think this HR 5123 comes in. If you did not see the video on the main channel, this is big, and I believe it will go through. The reason why is because Oogle and Associates were pushing on loons, and they were coming up with this. They are partly behind it, and I think they might want to launch it before Starlink. So maybe this is just them trying to get their system up and their internet and the all-seeing eye. I don't know. But HR 5123 is the American, and again, look at this, American Freedom and Internet Access Act of 2021. Just the name itself could be broken down in a whole show. But again, this is basically saying that they are trying to push this through to direct the Secretary of the Air Force to develop and begin implementation of Operation Starfall. Operation Starfall. If somebody like Joseph, of course, Joseph wants to go in and go deep into this and read the whole thing and make videos about it, I would encourage it. If anybody wants to do their research on this, it says, again, to direct the Air Force to develop and begin implementation of Operation Starfall. It says not later than 45 days after the date of the enactment of this act, the Secretary of the Air Force, in consultation with the Chief of Space Operations, shall develop and begin implementation of, quote, Operation Starfall, a strategic plan to deploy stratospheric balloons, aerostats, and satellite technology capable of rapidly delivering wireless internet anywhere on the planet from the stratosphere or higher. So once you look at who co-signed this, it is, I believe, most of these are from the R side of the line, so it's not like, if it was from the other side, I would almost say, okay, maybe somebody's pockets got lined, or they're lobbying for some business or something like this. But it's not. I believe it's on the side where we're talking, this is like the EMP task force type stuff. The people that are on the committees, the people that do know about the threats, the people that know why we are training all this, the people that are drilling themselves. They've got Congress and all of these people meeting and actually going to like Greenbrier, ancient bunker, whatever. They're doing trips and doing all of these kind of drills on their own time. I covered it basically 2.5 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago when I started my channel. This is some crazy stuff. Once you get deeper and deeper into it, you realize they know something big is happening. And the public is not. It's not being told. Military knows it. And we're going to sit here and say something big is coming. You guys are going to say it. Everybody, you're going to tell your family, and your family's going to go, okay, Loopy, But guess what? When it happens and you have extra stuff, you have extra food, extra water, you're going to be in a way better place. So don't listen to anybody that calls you cuckoo or Cocoa Puffs. If you are doing the responsible thing and actually looking into what I'm saying and not just taking my word for it, then you will have no problems actually being called crazy, because guess what? You have sources to go to, you have things to actually read, you have things to go back up and do your own fact checking. Don't let some, biased freaking company do your fact checking. Do the facts for yourself. Actually look at the footnotes. Actually look at what is going on here. They need internet that can go anywhere in the world. This says nothing about Cuba. What this says is American Freedom and Internet Access Act. What they are mentioning and what they're talking about is they are actually talking about the kill switches. Dex, do you want to explain that real quick, and then I'll move through some of the other stuff?
Yeah, sure. So the kill switches are what we've seen a lot of the countries use. And before I jump into that, though, I want to go back. The one thing about this bill that's really interesting is this bill is not Operation Starfall. This bill is a bill demanding that the Space Force and others actually implement Operation Starfall. So that means there is this operation called Starfall that nobody knows about, right? So this is something that's been in the works, been in the plans, at least with this name, and that organization and other organizations have been working on it or have it put together, and now it's coming to light saying, hey, we want to make a bill that actually forces you to do that, not just keep it in R&D or not, or whatever. We're going to push it out because we need it ASAP, right? So that's what's really interesting is and you can look, everybody's been looking. Everybody said, I can't find Operation Starfall, and that's true, you can't, because it's secret. It has not come out what exactly that is outside of the one headline we got in this bill that explains it.
Now,
yeah.
Also, just to say this real quick is, so this is an operation that exists. It's a plan. It's put together. It's most likely a military operation in coordination with the Air Force. This is an operation. This could quietly go through. Nobody mentioned this. We scour the news. So does Lisa Haven. So does everybody else that does this. Nobody saw this. So that says a lot. This came in way under the radar. There were no Vice articles about it. There were no nothing. And the reason why is it went way under the radar on purpose. And the fact that this went through, look at the name of it. Think about the Patriot Act. Think about things like this. This is called American Freedom and Internet Access Act of 2021. It's already responding to a threat of a thing, right? They mentioned Cuba or tyrants turning the lights off. We can't do that. It's almost like they're putting this here quietly, then something big and bad happens, and then they go back to this and they go, that's why we need this. It's already introduced. Let's get it done. Just a thought. And then Dex, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Back to the internet kill switches. So as we've seen in lots of different countries where they've had turmoil, revolutions, and other things, a lot of times the internet gets shut off. So it basically prevents the people from having communication. So these internet kill switches, as they call them, are exactly that. It's basically a government control where they can flip the switch and basically turn off the internet because something may be going wrong. So being able to circumvent that is one of the things that this bill and this system that they're talking about putting up would actually do. So if someone were to, let's just say here in America, someone actually killed the internet here in America, whether it's a cyber threat or whether it's, rogue part of our own, government flips the switch, we would still have this system in place that would allow us being the people to get information and not be locked away from everything.
Yeah, and so there's multiple ways to look at it. Basically, we could look at this as is it the good guys or is it the bad guys? What do you think? Do you think that this bill is being introduced because of that? And we're gonna watch this. So normally we don't watch these bills. We don't see a lot of them get introduced, but not a lot of them go through for whatever reason. If you look at the title of this one, I mean, do you really think? For some reason, I honestly think that this one is going to go through. The American Freedom and Internet Access Act of 2021. I mean, look at that. That doesn't look like something that just comes and goes. This looks like something that we're going to talk about in history books. I have a feeling. On top of that, look at what it's saying. It's using a system that Google and the companies wanted to get up in the air 6 years ago. These are stratospheric balloons that carry a satellite, and then that satellite has internet anywhere. Somebody mentioned Cuba or whatever else. This is actually mentions that they would use it in the event of flooding, in the event of hurricanes and disasters and earthquakes. They say specifically that this would help give internet to areas like that for communications, for rescue. There is something coming, and people are going to call you crazy. Just brush them off and do the responsible thing. Have yourself some extra water. Have yourself some extra food. Have yourself an extra plan. Professionals have 4 plans.
And with newer technology comes the ability to insulate it and shield that technology from things like an EMP or a CME. So even if these balloons do go up, or even if worst case scenario, a CME hits and it takes out that line or it takes out our internet, if we can put the balloons up right away, we can actually have internet back again much faster than trying to recover lines. Now, of course, that may be, all a moot point without power, but at the same time, we also know that they're doing things right now to, improve the grid, to improve its vulnerability against that. And they've been doing it for the last 4 or 5 years, making significant progress.
And a ton in the last 2 years. So we're going to put this, all of this is going to be available on the website. You can go over and look at this bill. You can look at everything else. If you do want to end up protecting your private property, your house, your car, all of your stuff against EMP or even a CME, which they say a CME we're actually overdue for, you can go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP and you can get yourself an EMP shield. This is the company that they are contracting in Texas on the DEMSO team. And this is also a company that has worked with, of course, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Defense. This is a military-tested device. Somebody a couple weeks ago made a comment and said, hey, I'm not trying to put this down, but they said that they were an electrician and that they put in several things. I don't know what the background of this is. It sounded like maybe they work for this competitor. They said, blah, 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 I work for this, blah, blah, blah. And I also like EMP Shield. I like both. He was being respectful, basically saying, I like this, but you should also look at this. He said that he has worked on 3 houses that had both the EMP Shield and this blank blank competitor, right? It was like midnight something. So he said that 3 houses that got hit with lightning and that the EMP shield was like damaged and that the blank blank competitor was not. And he said you should do over like that way. What I didn't answer back.
That's not apples to apples.
So, Dex, does it, first of all, if that happens and a house gets fried with an EMP shield, if an EMP got fried,
oh yeah,
he's leaving out that they would give him $25,000.
So for starters, if the EMP shield got fried, it actually saved that house from probably a very, very close, if not a direct hit lightning strike, which is much different than any other product out there. And this electrician, I'm assuming, is referring to whole house surge protectors, because that's what's been out and that's what's out there. This device actually is basically just like those devices, but on steroids. In other words, it clamps faster, like twice as fast as any other product in the industry, and it handles so much more voltage over any other product in the history in the space right now, because it's designed to withstand multiple EMP hits. And because of that, it can actually withstand a direct lightning hit and save the items that are plugged into your power line on the other side. Now, the device may actually burn out and fail, which is what it's supposed to do when it gets hit with a direct lightning bolt. But the flip side is, if something does happen, their product is so tested that they have guaranteed up to $25,000 of coverage on your house, your products in your house that are plugged in. So if a lightning bolt strikes your house, wipes out your computers, your expensive refrigerator, your washing machine, all your stuff, and the EMP shield didn't do its job, they're going to pay to get all that stuff fixed. And it doesn't even require your own insurance to cover it. They have their own.
Yeah.
And no other product out there does that. All the other products have these, very, very detailed exclusions in their warranty, saying, oh, well, we won't cover direct lightning, or, oh, we won't cover over voltage or massive surges or things like that. EMP shield, no, they'll cover it all because they can handle it all.
So again, this was all stems from a thing where I thought maybe this is somebody who's trying to get us to affiliate for them. And I just thought it was, I'm like, I don't know. I'm not an electrician. I don't know how many actual houses they respond to with lightning strikes. Maybe that's something common if you're an electrician and you've seen a ton of lightning strikes. I would think that would be completely rare. To hear 2 or 3 or whatever they said, and they said that they happen to have both devices. I thought that's kind of weird, because why would you install both? But that this fried and then this didn't, and whatever else. And it did bother me, because I researched and I looked into it, because I was like, well, if there's something better, I want to know. But we're talking about up to like 80,000 amps to 280,000 amps what was it? The difference in seconds, Dex? It's like,
oh yeah, so in seconds, your standard whole house surge protector might be just under a nanosecond. The EMP shield clamps at 600 picoseconds, which is basically like twice as fast. And who the heck knows what a picosecond is, unless you're, into science. It's a word we don't all run around talking about, because it's so fast. It's faster than nanoseconds. And you need that speed. I mean, I described this like, here's the best way to think about it. If somebody was going to take a fire hose, and you were going to, the analogy of drinking from a fire hose, right? If I was going to throw a fire hose right at your mouth, would you want the shutoff valve to close in 600 picoseconds or 1 nanosecond? You want it as fast as possible, because you're about to drown, right? So that's why speed is so important when you have this massive surge coming into your house, whether it's an EMP, a CME, or a lightning bolt. And then the back to the electrician with the lightning bolts, there's different locations that lightning hit. It can hit miles away and come in through the power line and give you a transient spike, which your typical surge protector may or may not be able to handle. But it can also hit the tree outside your house and come through the ground and through the power line and hit your house with a very large surge, or even hit the house itself and give you that very large surge, which no surge protector can protect against, but an EMP shield actually can, and they warranty it for that. And
so we don't normally, if you're new here, and we don't normally do this, this is an affiliate, so this is something that we make a commission on, but we did not take it lightly. We were one of their first before they had their contracts and all this huge facility that they have now, because we didn't know at one point if they were going to sell to consumers still when they got these huge contracts. So we're like grandfathered in. If this is how the ecosystem works. But I would not personally, and I even asked, like I talked to Dex, I would not personally have an affiliate on this channel that I didn't actually use and like really truly believe. Everybody says that, but I'm dead serious about it, because I didn't want to have affiliates. I didn't even want to accept donations until I even expanded and brought Dex on and things like that. If you guys remember, I said I didn't want anything. I never asked for anything. Now I do believe there's a cause and effect here. I believe that we are meant to do this. When we were having state groups meet in every state, I felt like that we were actually getting things done. This, I believe, will save lives. And I did want to defend it, because I'm proud of this. I really am. And I'm proud that I've turned down companies. I've turned down a lot of stuff that would have been a ton of money or whatever. We don't do that. We actually have turned things down because we don't believe in the product and we don't believe in it. So anyways, I wanted to defend that, and I just thought it was strange. So, because I don't think anybody, and nobody to this day has actually told us that they can do better than this. So anyways, that was a very long thing. Won't happen again unless somebody makes a comment again like that. But go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. What you get is $50 off per device, and that stacks on top of any sale, and you help our channel. We are independent. We are by ourselves. We don't have a commercial break every 5-10 minutes that is paying thousands of dollars to them so they can keep the lights on, do everything else. We are independent. So the commission from this helps us. because it's sure as hell not, we're not getting algorithm boosts and help and trending and things like that because of our content. So you guys can keep us going and stuff like us. Go and support our friends and family and everybody else on the YouTube, everybody like Survival Prepping, all of them. Make sure to get their affiliates too if you like them. If you see something you like, make sure to support the creator you like, because that's how it works. All right. And then, of course, exclusive, before Afghan collapse, President B pressed Ghani, the previous president, to change perception. It says, in the last call between U.S. President JB and his Afghanistan counterpart before the Taliban seized control of the country, the leaders discussed military aid, political strategy, and messaging tactics. But neither President B nor Ashraf Ghani appeared aware or prepared for the immediate danger of the entire country falling to insurgents. A transcript reviewed by Reuters showed. It said the men spoke for roughly 14 minutes on July 23rd. On August 15th, Ghani fled the presidential palace. Remember, we showed you that not only did he flee, he couldn't fit all of his money in a helicopter, so he fled with a helicopter jammed full of American U.S. dollars and 4 vehicles, 4 SUVs filled to the brim with U.S. cash and gold. It was that kind of operation, right? It says the men spoke for roughly 14 minutes. It says Ghani fled the presidential palace and the Taliban entered Kabul. Since then, tens of thousands of desperate Afghans have fled, and 13 U.S. troops and scores of Afghan civilians were taken out in a suicide bombing at the Kabul airport during the frenetic U.S. military evacuation. And then it says they reviewed a transcript of the presidential phone call and listened to the audio to authenticate the conversation. The materials were provided on the condition of anonymity by a source who was not authorized to distribute it. So somebody was a traitor, which, by the way, a lot of people did this to T-Man, the president, before. What I'm questioning is, why are they doing it to this new one? Everybody loves this new one. Most popular guy in the world, right? In the call, President B offered aid if Ghani could publicly project he had a plan to control the spiraling situation in Afghanistan. It says, quote, "We will continue to provide close air support if we know what the plan is," B said. Days before the call, the U.S. carried out airstrikes to support Afghan security forces, a move that Taliban said was in violation of the Doha peace agreement. That was, of course, I believe, the previous agreement. It said the U.S. exactly also advised Ghani to get buy-in from powerful Afghans for a military strategy going forward, and then put a, quote, warrior in charge of the effort. I'm just wondering if there was code in this conversation. Why did this guy bust out this tape? Why did he give this specific tape? What was really on that? And then why did he say, this is B saying to Ghani, "You clearly have the best military," he told Ghani. "You have 300,000 well-armed forces versus 70 to 80,000, and they're clearly capable of fighting well." Days later, the Afghan military started folding across provincial capitals in the country with little fight against the Taliban. Something doesn't smell right, Dex.
Well, no, and I think he was also, pushing him to make a strong statement and better, to re-rally the troops and make sure that that this fall wasn't going to actually happen. And he wanted a perception change, which I guess is really what the title says. He wanted the change of perception, because obviously he knew something was wrong.
So what they are arguing with this whole entire conversation, there's more to it, is that they knew something was going wrong. They knew that it was falling apart way before they said, right? Because they said it fell in 11 days, but it sounds like it was falling in July. It sounds like it was falling in June. So somebody's lying. And, yeah. So something is happening here. Something was perpetrated, I believe, and that's just my opinion. What's yours? First of all, before we go any further, I just want to say a gigantic flippin' Thank you to MC Kiend Mikiland News. Says, look forward to seeing you and Dex each night. Thanks. Mekiend News, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you. Same with Susan Donahue, OG Foogle fam. Says, Dear Adam, dear Dex, Mod Squad, and Foogle fam, I'm so very grateful for every one of you. Hashtag Team Humanity. Susan, we are so grateful for you as well. Even when you're not here, we make sure to shout you out. Thank you. You've made an impact on many people here, so thank you so much. Cholo177, thank you so much. And, of course, Dust says, heard this from former Marine SEAL sources he has talked to in Afghan, that private companies are sending planes out to rescue people and U.S. tanks have moved to China. That U.S. tanks have moved to China. Huh. Send me more info at Adam@MarfoogleNews.com. Lorraine Pierce, thank you for subscribing. Bro Stroyer, thank you so much for your support. Frankie Rio says, the propaganda in MSN has dropped to a 3rd grade level. I'm not sure if I'm completely insulted or scared, because it still works on a little less than half of the country. Survival Living, thank you for your support. You know you don't have to do that. Again, I actually mentioned you earlier, so thanks for popping in. Paracat Forever, I don't know if that was on purpose or an accident. Again, thank you for your support there. Usually you would do a comment. If that was an accident, I'm sure you can work that out. You can actually click and fix that. Thank you, Petracat Forever. Petracat. I got that. That was very clever, Petracat Forever. Thank you for your support. Again, if you did mean to, either way, you can change that to another number. That doesn't seem right, so I'm assuming that was a mistake. Check out Crosspoint Church sermons with Randy Westerberg, some of the best and deepest theology and doctrine out there. Kirsten Hudson, thank you for subscribing. Trudy Svensson, Stephen Click says, check out Crosspoint Church sermons on Randy Westberg, some of the best and deepest theology. Oh, so I think you did that twice there. Stephen Click, again, thank you. Shout out to this church, Crosspoint Church. I will check it out. I guess it's online, I'm assuming. And then Trudy Svensson, thank you so much for your support. And then we have, of course, Top B Advisor refuses to say whether the Taliban is an enemy of the U.S. Hard to put a label on it. Really? Hard to put a label. Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor to President JB, refused to say Tuesday whether the B administration views the Taliban as an enemy of the United States. Technically, the Taliban group that controls Afghanistan is not designated a T organization. The Taliban group that operates in Pakistan, however, is designated T group. So if they cross the border, or if they go across town lines, then they are. But if they're over here, they're not. Yeah. First of all, it says, quote, this is a question, are they a frenemy? Are they our adversary? Are they our enemy? What are they? Wallace asked. This is Chris Wallace. Chris Wallace is I don't like that guy. I don't hate him. I just don't.
No, it was Nicole Wallace.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, from MSNBC.
When
totally
it said
different.
Wallace, I thought of Chris Wallace in my head saying,
I thought the same thing.
Are they a frenemy? Are they a frenemy? I just can't see him using that. Okay, that makes sense. Why would a professional reporter ask if they're a frenemy? Anyways, that's a friend enemy, right? Despite decades of witnessing barbaric rule by the Taliban leaders and fighters, Sullivan responded by saying the B administration would not place a label on the Taliban because they don't know yet, allegedly, how the Taliban will rule Afghanistan this time around. So maybe he doesn't want to go into the history of the Taliban and say that we are the ones who created the Taliban, and that's why we can't label them. Because if we were to actually label them, it would probably be a stamp that said "Made in the USA." If you know why, then you're a little bit faster than the others. Remember, the Taliban actually came out of things, out of groups that we trained because we were in a proxy conflict with Russia and China. Pretty crazy. All right, and then it says, well, it's hard to put a label on it, in part because we have yet to see what they are going to be now, and they are in control, physical control of Afghanistan. They will, in the coming days, announce a government. That government is going to go around seeking diplomatic engagement, even recognition from other countries, including the United States. Yeah. It sounds more like that government is going to go around door to door seeking diplomatic engagement, if you know what I mean. They're going to some stuff up. And then we've got huge T-band parade, features throngs of U.S. bought vehicles, and a Black Hawk helicopter. I was posting several videos of this yesterday over on Twitter. Just some really insane stuff. In fact, let's see here. On my Twitter, we should have plenty to show you here. So hold on. Boom. So check this out. You can go over and follow me at Marfoogle. There we go. So hold on. Like that one. Oh, and while we're here, so we have this in, I believe, web only, but it says allegedly we had a drone locked on to the boomer and we didn't fire. There is an accusation there. You can go check that out. Make sure to go to the website and also make sure to go to my Twitter. All right, but there's, I posted a bunch of these, so look at this.
And while you're talking on that, Adam, I think a couple of news agencies have started to pick that up and cover it as well. So we'll see if it goes a little broader.
Isn't that funny?
Category.
I think we were a little bit ahead on that one, so pretty awesome. This is the translation. The idiots are even going to send us aid. Now they're talking about sending us more money. It's funny. Ha 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 ha, Taliban. We should ask them for pizza. Yeah. Here's another one in Kandahar. Check this out. And then look at this. They've got these humongous vehicles. Just absolutely insane. What I think is so crazy, I'm going to pause this other one here. What I think is so crazy is you have them riding on it, and if you look very carefully in this video, you actually can see them on their cell phones recording the view from the vehicles. Watch this right here.
Yeah, that picture's in the article.
1, 2, 3 cell phones. They're videotaping. They're laughing at us right now. They're laughing at us driving our boom-proof vehicles there. It's just like, how does this happen? Pearl says, I still haven't got my EMP shield installed in. Pearl, I'm hoping that we have like a, network of Foogle fam businesses. I would hope that you would go with like somebody local to do it. If you're talking about the house model, the car one you can do yourself. If you just watch the video. And then Maui Racing Realtor. What was that?
Pearl, I was going to say, Pearl, even the house one, if you just get any electrician, it should be the minimal amount. It takes less than 10 minutes for them to do it. Just like the car takes 10 minutes. An electrician could pop it in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's like
really
the fee to just have them show up, basically. Nana Deborah, Maui Racing Realtor, Angela 1609, Scooby-Doo-Doo, right, says Team Jesus. We've got Elon's Satellites Armageddon. Says Global Impact. It's nice to see you again, by the way. It's been a while. Rabonsky, thank you. Global Impact again. Marfia for life. Thank you, Adam, Dex, and Mods. Moxie71, it's been a second for you as well. Sasquatch. Let's see here. We've got all sorts of great people over on DLive. Delaware Sasquatch says +1. Can't imagine how much a moisture or hoarder holds. I don't know if I read that right. Straight 82 Jesus says thank you, Project Veritas, truth in reporting. You know what? If they came out with something today, they're coming out with something like almost every day. If you guys haven't checked them out, man, they are just unbelievably on top of things. So make sure to check them out. Incredible whistleblowing videos. Incredible.
I watched the school board meeting last night, and it was insane. I'll see if I can find a link to it, and I'll put it on.
Okay,
on
I haven't seen the newest one.
Yeah,
is it about CRT?
All the parents showed up. I don't know. I'm assuming the school board had a meeting anyway, like their typical public meeting, and this was like 3 days after Veritas busted that teacher. Well, all of the students and parents show up at this meeting, and they are just going off on the school board, and there's not a single person there supporting this teacher, and everybody is just blasting the school board. And it was I've never watched a school board meeting before, and this was the first one I've ever actually gave it enough time to pay attention to. It was pretty entertaining. I'll see if I can find the video, and I'll put it on our website.
Okay,
so people can go watch it. Somebody had live streamed it.
Okay, that's great. So I'll be watching it afterwards. Huge T-Band parade, of course, features our gear. It's just, I mean, you guys already know. It's incredible. And then China calls for investigation of U.S. NATO war crimes in Afghanistan following the withdrawal. China's saying that we have committed something here. Look, that's what it looks like. Says the first solid facts proving that some Western military strikes resulted in civilian casualties emerged in 2010 when WikiLeaks released the Afghan logs. Dozens of thousands of classified conflict documents downloaded from the Pentagon network by whistleblower Chelsea, born Bradley, Manning. It says the cases of mass civilian killing in Afghanistan allegedly committed by the U.S. and other NATO countries, which took part in the 20-year conflict, should be investigated. This is what they say. And those responsible for the conflict crimes should be held accountable, spokesman for the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Wang Wenbin, has stated. Are they just like, is everybody just taking off their gloves? They're saying like, okay, we're straight up enemies. We're going after you. We're doing whatever. I mean, like, this is kind of nuts. Maybe since we pulled out, and now they're saying, we should just call them for what's going on. It says the lives and the human rights of the Afghan people should be safeguarded. This is about international rule of law, justice, and the progress of human rights, the spokesman said. According to the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, some 47,000 Afghan civilians died as a result of the armed conflict in Afghanistan by April 2020, when the U.S. and the Taliban signed the peace agreement. The letter ultimately resulted in NATO's withdrawal from the country, which was complete on August 30th, 2021. It says the information about massive civilian casualties in Afghanistan as a result of their action of the NATO troops was first made public in 2010 when WikiLeaks leaked over 91,000 classified documents downloaded from the U.S. military network by whistleblower Chelsea Manning. The documents showed that the killings of hundreds of civilians remained unmentioned in the U.S. and NATO reports about their military actions in the country, sparking a wave of public discontent. None of the countries were held accountable based on those revelations. So this is one thing I know, the drone strikes and a lot of the things that we did, that's a huge number, actually. So 47,000 Afghan civilians Compare that to how many soldiers did we lose? 2,000? We killed a football stadium worth of people. Think about that. If there was a football stadium full, just packed to the brim, as one of the biggest football stadiums, by the way, there's football stadiums at 30,000. We're talking about one of the largest football stadiums in the world, and then you just drop something and it destroys all of them. Think about that. That is about 4,000 died in September of 2001 in the worst attack possible. That's 10 times that number. 10 times as many people that died in September 2001 in the last 19 years. That's a lot of people. And remember, previous President Obama said, making jokes. This is why other countries looked at when, President Barack was at the press conference dinner, one of his last, and he was joking about, hey, if you're dating my daughter, making a joke about basically, I've got Predator drones. That's why it was so messed up. It's like 47,000 people have died. Probably a lot of them from, I would assume, drone strikes, but I don't know. That's why it's just so screwed up. Conflict is screwed up in general. And then Chinese military can paralyze Taiwan's defense capabilities, report says. We've been looking at they're looking at this now, and they're actually saying that they believe that it would be an easy win. It says earlier this year, the Chinese Foreign Ministry underscored the need for Taiwan, an island Beijing considers to be an integral part of China, to admit its future lies in reunification. It says the Chinese military is capable of paralyzing Taiwan's air defense systems and fully monitoring their developments or deployments. A new report on the island's defense ministry has revealed. The annual report to MPs on the Chinese People's Liberation Army, a copy of which was seen by Reuters. It says, claimed that China can launch so-called soft and hard electronic attacks. Dex, if they can do it to them, why aren't more people talking about how they could do that to us? They definitely have the
obviously.
MP.
Obviously they have it. And if they're worried about it there, they've got the capability to defend themselves. We presumably are doing things indirectly to help them, and if they feel like they're not going to be able to do it, then and they're susceptible to this, then yeah, I would think that anybody could be susceptible to that. And it sounds like they've got a pretty strong capability there, which is probably on par or close to being on par with what we have. And I would expect us to be able to do that, and I would expect us to now be vulnerable to China.
So they, again, soft and hard attacks to block communications across the western part of the first island chain. The document apparently referred to a number of islands running. Sorry about that. I thought my light was just going to fall over for no reason. Just making sure I wasn't in an earthquake here. It says that the document apparently referred to a number of islands running from the Japanese archipelago through Taiwan and down to the Philippines. China, quote, can combine with its internet army to launch wired and wireless attacks against the global internet. Funny timing, right? That this is all, they put all these things in here. It says, which would initially paralyze our Taiwanese air defenses, command of the sea, and counterattack system abilities, presenting a huge threat to us, the report claimed. It says China could also paralyze Taiwan's military command centers and the combat capability of its naval and air forces due to the PLA precision missile attacks, according to, again, the report. So it says the survey also argued that China has improved its reconnaissance abilities using the Beidou Navigation Satellite System, or BDS, which Taiwan's defense ministry dubbed Beijing's response to the U.S.-owned GPS. By the way, Dex, isn't it a trip? I guess I'm not smart in this area, but GPS is owned by the U.S. Like, I guess that's very small-minded of me, because that's our version. Does Europe have its own version, or do they use our GPS?
They probably use ours. I don't know if Europe has their own. They probably have some satellites, but they're probably our allies all have access to using the GPS system that we put up. But I do know we reported about this a while back that China had deployed their own, right? And so that they could have their own version of it in their satellite systems.
So, okay. So for those of the people that are like, well, where's this, conflict with China? Do you think you would, if you were China and you did not, if the United States could cut you off from access to satellites, which of course, if you get hit with EMP and all your ground stuff is done, would you not want to launch your own stuff first? It's like there was setups, and China has done everything to do so. Russia has done the same. Notice how setting up to this, it's like everybody is setting up. We're drilling to do launches with A-10 Warthogs off of U.S. highways. They're drilling for that. We're drilling in the dark, drilling without GPS, drilling without all this, right? Because we're expecting they would try to knock that out or knock it out. Russia has separated its internet completely. Russia literally said, it was crazy because we covered when Vladimir says, hey, we're putting this bill in. We're suggesting this bill to cut off the internet from the rest of the world. And it was like a couple weeks later, they're like, we're working on it. And then they were done. It was just like that. And now they have the capability to make it an intranet instantly. So all of a sudden, none of their systems are affected. So if they know of an attack, or China calls Russia and says, hey, we're about to destroy the internet of the world, you might want to go on intranet mode. Okay, cool. Click. They separate. I mean, Dex, could they do that? Could they communicate and have, by the way, China did the same. So China and Russia have their own intranet, and they could probably even leave theirs connected while turning off ours. Is that possible?
Well, yeah, certainly. They've designed theirs to stay up, and they can keep theirs up if the rest of it goes down. So if they do something to destroy the rest of the network outside of their country, then they certainly can leave theirs up and running.
So they could take ours down and then keep theirs up. That is really crazy. Spiral into crisis. The U.S.-China military hotline is dangerously broken. This is really, really surprising. It says the Pentagon just had its first virtual meeting with China's military, but former officials warned the communications gap could lead to conflict, to war, right? It says after months of delay, the Pentagon and China's People's Liberation Army last week initiated their first direct contact since President Xi took office. Isn't that kind of weird? By the way, Dex, that he hasn't talked with Xi at all, especially like publicly meeting, shaking hands. It's almost they're like, hey, I don't know you, dude. Pretend you don't know me.
Exactly. Let that dust settle, and at least keep it to the private cell phone conversations.
Yeah,
or Signal.
Zoom or whatever they're doing. It says that meeting, a video call carried by the U.S. PRC Defense telephone link, so that special link that's totally private, focused on maintaining open channels of communications between the two militaries. It says it's a step, but former senior U.S. military officials warn that better and more regular means of communications are necessary to prevent a possible future confrontation between the U.S. and the Chinese military forces in the Indo-Pacific region, because they're slowly taking over that area. They're making islands. They made the Spratly Islands. They made their own land so they could claim that part of the sea. They want to take multiple straits, and then between them and Russia, they're making their own strait through Antarctica and all of this. It's like they're setting up for some massive... and... Another thing that they knew that they would have to, that they don't have, or they were behind at the time. They knew that they were behind as far as tech and all of that, which, again, I think they hacked a lot of our stuff, but they still don't know what we have, right? So they said, well, we'll have to do it with brute force. We're going to have 1.4 or 2.4 million people, soldiers going across, but we don't have that many ships. One, now they're the biggest navy, but they put it into law in China to actually make every public ferry, every public, every ship going forward would actually be built with transport in mind for military. That's why their civilian ferries have a special thing that they don't normally use, where the hull of the ship comes up and it can be used as a drop ship for tanks and for other vehicles. That's because they put that into law. So every ship that's made, because they're preparing. So on top of the military boats that they're doing, all of their civilian boats at one time. So say if it goes to conflict and all of a sudden we're at war with China, all of a sudden China's routine ferries that are going across, from Wanqing Island to this island, just a consumer ferry. They get a call, all of a sudden that's a military ship with drop ship capabilities. Why do you think they're doing all this? Why did the U.S. order something like 80,000 of these things, these island hopping drop ship things straight from like D-Day, only more advanced? They're being made here locally, by the way. It says there should be a sense of urgency about this, said retired Scott Swift, former commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet. Swift said unpredictable triggers may fuel a U.S.-China military conflict that could overwhelm current bilateral crisis communication systems. It says past experience underscores the fragility of those links. In the hours following the June 4th, 1989 massacre of Beijing citizens by Chinese troop dispatched to crush the Tiananmen Square pro-democracy demonstrations, then President George H.W. Daddy Bush urgently tried to call China's then paramount leader Deng Xiaoping, but he was unable to get through. Bring. Hello? Oh, it's an answering machine. Dang it, China. Bush's national security advisor, Brent Snowcraft, recalled. So we were about to go head-to-head, and we couldn't get a hold of him. They ignored us. They pushed the red button. They said, it's probably a telemarketer. History repeated itself 12 years later when Admiral Joseph W. Proer, then U.S. ambassador in Beijing, urgently tried to contact China's foreign ministry about the collision of a Chinese fighter jet and the U.S. Navy EP-3 reconnaissance plane in April 2001 off of China's Hainan Island. It says, quote, "They didn't answer my phone call," said Proer. "They didn't want to talk to us yet." Proer had to wait another 12 hours for the foreign ministry to open discussions on resolving the crisis. So we've covered multiple times before the 80s even, where we've had multiple countries, including Russia, where we've had instances where we couldn't get a hold of them, or we were this close to a full-out exchange. So it's pretty crazy that they do not have reliable lines right now. Dex, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, no, it's not surprising. And it is surprising that we don't have communications with the top countries at all times. It's also not surprising that this current situation we're in with this administration and this Pentagon leadership is fumbling around with us. That's not surprising.
Dex, you'll like this. N95H, by the way, thank you for your support and thank you for being around for a long time. Says, aren't all hotlines broken if the person manning them is asleep? Literally. That is a good one. He's asleep at the wheel. Petrocat Forever, thank you. So I'm assuming that was on purpose. Petrocat Forever?
Yes, they said that in chat.
Oh, thank you so much. Petrocat Forever, thank you for the massive support for the channel. It is people that step above and beyond that really make the difference, since, of course, the platform does not like to... I feel like we're not treated the same on the other end. So thank you so much. Freebird, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Lindsay Renee, thank you again. And Stephen Click, I will definitely check out the Crosspoint Church. Randy Westerberg, I've heard the name Westerberg for some reason. So some of the best and deepest theology doctrine out there. Well, cool. Thank you. And then GM Ford halt some production as chip shortage worsens. Oh, first of all, I can't believe I almost skipped this. China's government banned effeminate men on TV and told broadcasters Thursday to promote revolutionary culture broadening a campaign to tighten control over business and society to enforce official morality. President Xi Jinping has called for national rejuvenation with a tighter Communist Party control of business, education, culture, and religion. Companies and the public are now under increasing pressure to align with its vision for a more powerful China and healthier society. Dex, I know the first thing that you thought when you saw this. It's like, okay, do you know when, our recruitment videos for the military? It's like the total polar opposite. It's like they don't want it to have the same reputation, so they're going the opposite way.
It is mind-blowing, but not surprising. You got to read that quote where it says broadcasters must, in quotes, what they said.
Okay, so look.
Yeah.
It says broadcasters, and this is a real thing. Resolutely put an end to sissy men and other abnormal aesthetics, the TV regulator said, using an insulting slang term for effeminate men, Niang Pao, or literally, girly guns. They don't want any girly guns. They call effeminate men girly guns there. That's bad slang there. So, oh, you girly guns. It says this reflects the official concern that Chinese pop stars, influenced by the sleek, girlish look of some South Korean and Japanese singers and actors, are failing to encourage China's young men to be masculine enough. Okay, first of all, I'm not a huge fan of the BDS kind of movement or whatever, or BTS, but South Korean, China, the what is it, K-pop, right? A lot of those men, they wear makeup, but they're very effeminate, to a point where it's, you don't know. It's like every member of BTS is a Pat, and then one comes out with like the, what is it, the, what was it?
Oi.
No. And you're like, oh no, he's masculine enough, but then he's got like little weaves and 6-inch nails on.
Is this history repeating itself? Because I grew up in the '80s, and the glam hair bands, Vince Neil and Nikki Sixx and Tommy Lee and all those guys had makeup on too with long hair.
No,
but they were pretty much rebel rousing, hotel trashing badasses. So
these guys are not rebel rousing, badassing, trashing. These are something else.
What are you trying to say?
I'm just trying to say that, I'm not trying to, you're kind of a Pat, that's all.
What do you mean, Pat?
Well, Saturday Night Live?
What's Saturday Night Live? Never heard of it.
Yeah, I know. Most kids haven't. Anyways, moving on. It says broadcasters should avoid promoting vulgar internet celebrities in admiration of wealth and celebrity, the regulator said. Instead, programs should vigorously promote excellent Chinese tradition culture, revolutionary culture, and advanced socialist culture. Huh. Sounds familiar. GM says Ford halts some production as chip shortage worsens. We've talked about the chip shortage. Average car has anywhere from 140 to 160 of these chips made in Taiwan, most of them made in Taiwan. That these chips are just like all of a sudden out, right? This shortage, they say, is getting worse. One car could have 140, 160 of them, and now we have even less. It says the global shortage of computer chips is getting worse, forcing automakers to temporarily close factories, including those that build popular pickup trucks. General Motors announced Thursday that it would pause production at 7 North American plants during the next 2 weeks, including 2 that make up the company's top-selling Chevrolet Silverado pickup. Ford will stop making pickups at its Kansas City assembly plant for the next 2 weeks. Shifts will be cut at more than 2 truck plants in Dearborn, Michigan and Louisville, Kentucky. Dex, this is almost like they're stopping everything American. They're stopping these companies. This is huge for our economy.
I heard an interesting observation. And this
We're
is
getting
just
crippled.
One strange person's opinion, okay? But it made me question it. But if you think about the Deagle report and you think about the pending, massive shift in population for whatever reason that they were predicting is going to happen, right? And that's just right around the corner. Would this be more of a fabricated thing and saying, hey, maybe we don't need to have, 100 million cars here that won't be driven because there's not going to be anybody here. Maybe we'll just start backing down the dial on some of these things so we're not, overloading the land and the population with stuff that we know there's not going to be people here for. I thought that was an interesting observation.
Oh, I think there's a lot of interesting observations out there right now, and I think most of them are. It's like who was it? It was somebody like super uber famous. Like somebody said basically the biggest conspiracy theories or whatever are most likely being done right in front of you or something, right in plain sight. It was somebody who, it was very surprising for them to say that. Apple says Arizona and Georgia, Dex, your state, will be the first to add state IDs to iPhones. Wow, Dex. So if you forget your license, you'll show a phone.
From a convenience standpoint, I've always said to myself, man, it'd be so great if I just had my driver's license on my phone. But then I now know, there's all this other side of the discussion about how much control, who will they know, how are they going to track you, where does it go? It just turns everything digital. But yeah, you can pay with stuff in the store with your phone, and if you had your driver's license on it, then you wouldn't need to carry a wallet. You would just carry your phone. And I get it. The convenience is so convenient. But we have to ask ourselves what comes along and what are we giving up when we run and grab that convenience.
And it's protect because they're putting it into the actual phone's kind of software. That's how it can't just be faked. It's not like you're showing a picture of it. Somehow you scan it into the phone system and it's part of the actual app, so that you can hand the cop the phone. They can go into it, click a certain part of the phone that it has to verify. It has to do all of this for you to have your license there. They're digitizing everything, and that's not a good thing. And why are we putting more dependence? We know that we are putting too much dependence on the internet and everything else. What if we, move away from actual identities, physical ones, where it's all digital, and then the lights go off? Then it's just one big cluster. I just don't understand why they're doing this. Anyways, that again is just nuts. And then the new CV variant MU, under close scrutiny by the WHO. So this is another variant, apparently. It says Mu, known scientifically as B1621, has been classified as a variant of interest. So it's now they have a warrant, and they're going to bring it in for questioning. Apparently
it came from a cow too.
That's nuts. It says the global health body said Tuesday in a weekly pandemic bulletin, because you can't miss your weekly pandemic bulletin. The WHO said the variant has mutations that indicate a risk of resistance to the and stressed that further studies were needed to better understand it. The Mu variant. Oh my God. I just got your stupid joke.
I was wondering when you were going to get it. I thought you were waiting for it to really come from a cow.
I just didn't get the joke. And then after I read it, the Mu. You are absolutely horrible, Dex. You're worse than me with the dad jokes. The Mu variant has a constellation of mutations that indicate potential properties of immune escape. So, what does it say? This is literally telling us that this is the next thing that's going to pop out. It's going to be even scarier, and we're going to be scared. Well, some people will be scared. So scared, in fact, they're going to be jerks on Twitter to people. They're going to yell at other people in the store if they're not doing what they need to do. It's going to be bad. It's going to be
Real bad.
BTS, what are you doing here? All right. If you have not already, make sure to go over and check out NordVPN. Again, it helps the channel out when you go through any of our affiliates. But NordVPN, a virtual private network, can actually protect you and your computer or your cell phone. A lot of people don't realize they can load it up on their cell phone from cyber criminals. But not only that, it can actually place you somewhere else. You can put your IP address, which is usually connected to your real address, you can put it somewhere else so people can't know where you are. They're not logging what you're doing, and it basically makes it you. On top of that, you can actually access geographically locked content. So if you're on, say, the internet for, Netflix or any, something like Hulu, you can put yourself in France if you want to get France's videos. You'll see an entire new set of videos that you never saw. You'll see if you want to put yourself over in Norway, you'll see Norwegian, blockbusters. It's pretty sweet. Again, it hides the IP from the bad guys. There's no data logging. It protects your data while you're traveling in public. Of course, awesome there. And it has an automatic kill switch if anything goes wrong. CyberSec Suite, which acts as an ad blocker, so you get rid of ads. And it works up on 6 devices for the cost of 1 account. You will get a giant discount, upwards of 70% off. Again, upwards of it, depending on which plan you get. And it works on 6 phones all at the same time. It's a pretty sweet deal. And you help the channel. MarfoogleNews.com/VPN. Dex. You want to talk about the internet shutdowns, the new authoritarian weapon of choice. I actually put this in late, so love for you to go over that.
Yes, certainly, Adam. This is just back to that internet kill switch. So this article, for you guys that want to know more about how these different governments have actually made use of it, they've actually shut down the internet about 850 times. 90% of those shutdowns were taking place just over the last 5 years. And these are governments that are doing it because something is going on. They don't want information getting out. They don't want, rebels or whoever or whatever to have access to information while something may be going down, whether it be a coup or a conflict or whatever. So 850 times nations have shut down the internet. That's kind of a big number, especially when most of that's been just the last 5 years. So that goes back to that notion of, what do you do to circumvent that? What do you do to prevent that? How can you, help the people, whether it's the people in your state or the people in another country? Maybe it's Cuba, but really maybe it's our own state. Maybe they shut down Texas. Maybe they shut down half of America or all of America. What do we do to make sure that we can continue to communicate and get information out, free information?
I just thought of a new way to look at that. What if they think that the D side of the aisle, this is our side that signed this, that they're going to shut off the internet, and if they have this up, then they would still have access to the internet. Like they're going to conflict with themselves, a civil conflict between the sides.
Exactly. And there is
basically saying we should all
there's a
be able to
single point
access
of failure. Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was saying having just one internet right now is sort of a single point of failure, and having this other platform would give us a backup, so to speak, or at least the ability to quickly have a backup where not just communications for military, but communications for all, so that, information can be disseminated to the masses or to the people, and free information can flow where it may have been blocked.
Just to read that one more time. At least 850 times in the last 5 years, most of them governments worldwide have intentionally shut down the internet. So I wonder if any of these times are times where we just have outages and we think it's local, or if we think it's something, or maybe they even are in cahoots with like Down Detector. They say, hey, Down Detector, this is a government thing. We don't want you to say that we're down. People will think it's a local down outage. I just wonder how many times this has happened here. Basically, they're saying around the world this has happened. They're shutting off internet to people. So just wait. Wait until they just go, poof, zip, the day that the internet stops, where you have no Wi-Fi, where you have no Google, you have no Facebook, you have no Netflix, you have no way to get your information, because now people are completely and utterly reliant on their phones. They wouldn't be able to even get around town. People don't know how to navigate. They don't even know their own cities without GPS. They might know how to get to work and back, but other than that, in the event of a disaster or natural disaster, if they don't have their GPS, what are they going to do? So that's why also one huge tip that I am taking myself is get books. Get books of things. Get hard copies if you can't afford a book. Print it out. Try to get a print of some of the tips and some of the survival stuff. I have several books on what to eat and things like this. If, just hypothetically, SHTF happened and it's like the worst thing ever, I have books on that. In fact, my mods are the ones who like helped me pick my books early on about 3 years ago. I got some amazing books, but those are my guides. Because you won't have a phone when this happens. Or if it happens, I'm sorry. When it happens is my thought. Dex, down below, there's like some crazy, crazy stuff here. Do you want to explain some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you refresh, you'll even see we added a video for that Sacramento school board meeting. So that's on there, guys. So go watch that if you want to see what happened. And that same channel that did it has the update from tonight, too. You can just click through and find it. There's web-only content. It is everything else we can't talk about, we either don't have time for, or it's really just too hot for TV. Go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, and just scroll down. You'll find the title. It says web-only content, and you'll find an entire show's worth of additional information. One of the new things that was just on there, we talked about this in our last show, which was these two key players at the food and DA place that had resigned, right? Well, it is now being reported by Ars Technica that has happened because of frustrations with certain things that are happening with the administration and the demands on them. So go take a look at that. That's a pretty interesting headline. The headline sort of says it all, but lots more going on there. Of course, Adam alluded to earlier the potential conversation that's going on and being investigated now about whether or not we had information and a lock, so to speak, on the bad guy in the A country that hurt our Marines and our Navy. So if that's true, that's kind of a very bad sign and a bad story, the way it's being told. So go take a look, make sure you know what's going on. Lots of other stuff on here, lots of conversations happening around both the political spectrum, what was happening in the A country, what is still happening there, what's happening with the bean counters, and with stuff even from last year in November that a lot of people are still questioning and wondering. So take a look, go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, scroll down to web-only content. If you haven't done it, you're missing a lot.
The second to last one here, B snaps at Gold Star Dad. Man, some of the things just.
Yeah, I mean, the dad showed him a picture and said, "Don't forget him," and he's like, "Yeah, I won't. I know this person. I know that person. Blah 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 blah." It was sort of like dismissed it, as opposed to being empathetic and just be like, "Yeah, you're right. I'll never forget." It's eye opening when you hear some of these stories. And I know not everybody's great with dealing with people, and not everybody's a people pleaser. But wow, that's
some of the. Just the last year, it's like intensified. Because T-Man was followed everywhere, because T-Man was news. T-Man, all the news agencies, anything he did, if he scratched his nose, I mean, it was gold. If he tweeted, Every single news outlet covered it. It's just strange because now we don't hear about the Prez unless he's talking about something. And now, all of a sudden, we're hearing everything negative about him. They're watching his every move just like they did with T-Man. It's like who's going to be the next fall guy, right? They're already setting him up. They must have came to him when he was 70 and was like, hey, or 75, and they were like, hey, can you be president? We kind of have to have you like brutally fail. In fact, we're going to have this thing go down like during your presidency, you're but we're going to pay you billions of dollars, and you can, we'll make sure your nieces or nephews or your son or your grandsons or whatever, they can, be president in like 25 years from now. Okay, cool.
If you had to live that life, wouldn't it be easy to do it with something like dementia? Then you wouldn't have to worry about remembering all those things.
By the time we screw over, you won't know what's going on. Oh. All right. Let's see here. Thank you, Survival Living. Again, gonna take our red meat. Easier to push lab grown. Wink, wink. That's right. Cloms, thanks for subscribing. Ruby Fleming, thank you for subscribing. Hal Bowers, Winston Seals, thank you for subscribing. If you do subscribe during the live show, I appreciate you, and I will shout you out. Thank you so much for everybody over there. Hard Styles, Jaybird42, Cognital, McSteelsy, Greifel. Thank you, everybody that has popped in. Let's see here. Global Impact, thank you again for popping in. Gone Girl 777, Susan Donahue, thank you, everybody that has popped in and helped during the show. Just want to say a big, huge thank you. And it looks like I missed Sir 82 Jesus. Thank you for being number one on D-Live. And
Straight to
Jesus. Because it's STR8. I got it. Straight to Jesus, thank you so much for being our number one supporter tonight. I believe that's your first time on the top of the leaderboard. R. Gonzalez, you've been on that leaderboard many times. Vault11, I'm sorry if I missed a few diamonds there. It must be. I don't know if it's showing me all of them. But thank you so much. And Global Impact, thank you for popping in late and just killing it there. Bear Claws, Moxie Lady, Moxie71, Delaware Sasquatch, Lisa K23, and oh my God, and Nasir. Thank you. One Aunt B, Angela 1609, right there with you. I missed you all. Feel like I'm home here. That's awesome. I love hearing stuff like that. All right, it is now time for the shoutro. It is not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Dex, thank you for your service. Much love. Be safe. Be prepared. And Marf out.
Day that the internet died, brains and electronics fried. Day that the internet died, brains and electronics fried. Day that the internet died, brains and electronics fried.
I see the inmates flying, going right by with her by side. Winston Seals and the Patrick Cat forever.
Patrick Cat forever. Patrick Cat forever. Patrick Cat forever.
Special one for Petricat Forever. So if you don't know what's going on, it's a shoutro. It's where I take the top donators and everyone in the chat, and I say thank you, because without you, we would not be here, and we would not matter. Lucky 7 Nico, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you. Lisa Marie S, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now it's time for... Listen.